Hello and welcome to the Financial Literacy Corner with Mabungu from Mabungu Financial Literacy Foundation, a foundation that concentrates on financial literacy, and that is the reason why we're here. We want to talk about small businesses, we want to talk about financial literacy and how you can be able to start making money for yourself. You know, we are living in an economy where things are not that good, but with all this knowledge that we can gain, we can be able to make this economy much better for ourselves. Talking about economy, we have a specialist in economy, an economist, Dr. Jason Musyoka, with us today. Dr. Jason Musyoka is a seasoned individual when it comes to economics. He's a contributor to different TV channels. He's a contributor to different newspaper outlets. And with all that knowledge, we wanted him to come here, sit with us today, so that we can go through his history, where he started, and also be able to understand where he is now and what are the plans for the future. But most of all, we want to understand our economy because he is a specialist in that, and he will be able to unpack that with us today. So listen in, let's enjoy this, and you will learn a lot. Dr. Jason, how are you doing today?
Very good. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you so much for honoring our invitation, and we really appreciate having you here. Doctor, me and you have had history. We have known each other for some time now. But I want our audience to understand who you are. Because
Right.
a lot of times when I sit with you and you talk to me, I'm like, I needed a camera to capture this moment. But most of the time when we sit, we don't have cameras around us. But this is a time where cameras are here. Our team is here just to listen to you. But to start with, who is Dr. Jason Musyoka?
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. So I wear a number of hats. The first is I hold a PhD in business leadership and a master's in development economics.
Yes.
So usually in business, I commute between those two, between business leadership and development issues. I have been much more involved in the development world, particularly international development, and I'll talk to that shortly. So that's the one hat that I put on. But second one, I'm also a theologian. My first degree and honors degree is actually in theology.
Yes, yes.
I'm very passionate around issues that relate to theology, much more intellectualizing theological issues. And I think that is one of the major deficits we have. So in our society today, where we have a lot of con men and all of that going on within the Christian circles.
Yes.
So I wear those two hats as a theologian apologist, but at the same time as a development economist, also in business leadership. In terms of development economics, I have worked a lot with several universities, the University of KwaZulu-Natal, where I did both my master's and PhD. I've also worked with the University of Pretoria, which I'm still an affiliate or an associate researcher at the moment. I did my postdoctoral work there, postdoctoral studies. And but then from a business point of view, I do a lot of work for governments around the continent. I'm a Pan-African in scope. I'm very passionate around our continent. So my involvement, including the media briefs that I do, usually really cover the continent per se.
Yes.
So from a business point of view, I work with governments, but also international governments. So this would be what we call RECs, Regional Economic Communities. I've worked with the SADC as a regional bloc. I've worked with the IGAD Secretariat as well, also as a bloc, and then with the ECOWAS, Economic Community for West African States. So I think that is really my Pan-Africanism that has extended there. But I'm a family man, married with two kids.
Yes.
And that's one of my greatest joys.
Wow, that's so beautiful. Yeah. That's so beautiful. And when talking about all this, you are very involved in the African continent. But are you involved in anything? Because I think you, when we're talking Africa, we have this thing called Global South. That is one word that is just going out there these days. When we're talking about economic shift and stuff like that, I would want us in the next few minutes to touch on that. But before we go there, I want you to tell us about your background. Where were you born? How did you
Right.
grow up?
Right.
Because that history for our audience is very important, because they see this man who's already up there, but they think maybe this guy, had a very rich background and
Right.
everything was there for him. That is
Right.
why he's where he is. But
Right.
we need to go back and look, where did Dr. Musyoka was born, and where did he grow up?
How many days have you got for the summary? But
We just have maybe 5 days or so.
right. So I think a very, very critical question. And one of the remarkable things that I always find out from practically everybody who I engage with, I know your story quite well as well, it is that there is always a story behind the glamour and the face
Yes.
that you see. So I'm Kenyan by birth. I
Yes.
was born in a small village in Kenya. I went to high school, primary school on feet, and
feet.
hiking. I used to go on foot.
Yes,
And
foot, yes.
the primary school is up the hill.
The hill.
So we would hike every morning. It's only much later than I came to realize that it's actually called hiking.
Yes.
But for us, it was just covering the distance, going to
Yes.
school for 8 years, covering all of that. And then I went to high school there, also in Kenya, and then started my theological studies also in Kenya. So that was really a stretch of my first 20 years of my life, 19 years. Then I came to South Africa in 2001.
Yes.
So I've had a longer life in South Africa than I have in Kenya.
Wow. Okay.
My entire adult life has been
South Africa,
In
yes.
South Africa, I've been here now for almost a quarter century.
Yes.
That would be approximately 25 years.
Yes.
For the listeners, you can calculate how old I could
Yes,
be.
of course.
So when I came to South Africa, that's when I started my university studies from Pietermaritzburg. Then I went to Durban to do both my honors and masters.
Yes.
And then I went back to Kenya briefly, got married, then came back, and then I pursued my PhD at the University
Yes.
of still UKZN, but Westville campus.
Yes.
So that's been in brief my journey. I'm really, but I consider myself, it's a difficult balance in terms of what I really am. Because my adult life is largely in South Africa.
Yes.
I have a very good grasp of the culture, the language.
Yes.
My entire adult life has been here.
Yes.
So there is that, and then there is my duality of me being a Kenyan by birth, and of course going to visit every now and
Yes.
then. So I consider myself as a man of two worlds. But I
Yes.
think that's where also my Pan-Africanism passion comes in, because I've lived in Zambia for a number
Yes.
of months.
Okay.
Also outside of the continent, I've lived in Germany. I've visited other countries around the world and lived a little bit longer in the UK as well. So in all of that, I think the globalist part of me
Yes.
has really been entrenched. But and I love South Africa a lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So you have dual citizenship.
At the moment, not. I have a permanent residence in South
In
Africa.
South Africa, yes.
And my daughter is born here, so she's a South African by birth. I still have my Kenyan citizenship, but with a South African permanent residence.
Oh, yes.
So it's a
Yes,
matter
yes.
of, and it's a matter of whether I want to take up
Yes.
the citizenship or not.
Yes.
But other than the papers, I think my whole life, as I said, my daughter was born here. My son was born in Nairobi, but he came here when he was 6 months. He's been here now for over 10 years. So the longer stretch of things has
Yes.
really been in South Africa.
South Africa, yes. So with all that, how do you find South Africa? When we're looking at Kenya and South Africa, do you see the difference when it comes to development? Are you seeing us? Because a lot of times we hear a lot of stories saying, you know what, this continent is going down, things are not looking good for us. And is that exactly how you see it as an economist? Do you see any development happening in these two countries currently?
So it's very interesting. I get that question a lot, by the way. And I think if you look at, on balance, South Africa is still by far, and as I've indicated, I've traveled to a number of countries in the continent. It's by far the most modernized
Yes.
economy there is in the continent. Recently, I remember having or engaging in a debate that was talking about Nigeria and the fact that after they had done their calculations just recently, the Nigerian economy was considered as the largest in the continent.
Yes.
What people don't understand is when you get to the finer details of that, because economically we talk of per capita, and per capita would mean that assume you take all the wealth of the country and you distribute to the population. South Africa still is ahead by far if you consider that with Nigeria. And then there is also, if you look at just the general production, Nigeria, it's unfair comparison with South Africa. South Africa is a much less populated country, approximately 60 million. Nigeria is almost 4 times or more in terms of the population. So there are some of those dynamics when you really dig into them, the more micro details of the economy itself. South Africa is still by far modernized. And then secondly, the aspects of the Nigerian economy that are still very rural and traditional, agriculturally dependent. South Africa is much more diversified. But to answer your question directly in terms of the parallels between South Africa and Kenya, again, Kenya it's considered in the World Bank ranking as a lower middle income country. South Africa is considered as a higher middle income alongside Mauritius and now Botswana, which are considered as a higher middle income countries. So that already means that, of course, the cost of living and just the way the economy, sustainability and diversity and all of that, then South Africa is ahead in that regard. In Kenya, Kenya is a very interesting country, developing. It's a bustling economy. The services sector is much more, it's quite robust. And with Kenya, I think the levels of development is much more, you'll have to look at the sectors, how the sectors are. Financial sector, Kenya is highly developed. And particularly IT, I think in terms of IT, Kenya is, I would consider it as slightly ahead than South Africa in terms of IT. And then the informal economy in Kenya is also thriving and very robust. I think there's been a lot of push and pull around how to regulate the informal economy in Kenya. South Africa has a much bigger formal economy than informal. In fact, as a matter of fact, in the continent, South Africa is considered as an outlier. By that I mean when most of other African economies are dominated by informal trade and informal businesses, in South Africa is the reverse. The formal economy is much larger, much bigger. So for that reason, it remains an outlier if you analyze it. So, but South Africa has a long-standing reliance on the mineral economy, going all the way back to the 1850s, the discovery of mining and all of that. And that's really sustained the economy for a very, very long time. And we've also seen increasing diversification of the economy. Agriculture is highly commercial still. And then, as I've indicated, for services and trade and insurance, we've seen still a ballooning of those sectors. So in summary, I think you could look at some variations of the economies, but South Africa is still much ahead if you consider both the GDP and GDP per capita especially, much ahead even than Nigeria. But Kenya is also among the top 5 economies in the continent. And I think that we are coming from a period where from around 2010 onwards, there's a big debate that came out about Africa Rising. And that really was looking at these economies, African economies, what kind of growth they were demonstrating. And most of them were really hovering around the 7% up to 10%. And that was telling in terms of where Africa is going into the future. That still remains the case, where African economies are powering ahead while most economies around the continent are really struggling with their minimal growth. South Africa, unfortunately, for the last decade has been caught into perhaps what we would refer to as a middle income trap, which is to mean that it's also at a low income, low growth trajectory. I hope that can change to join the league of the other emerging economies in the continent, which are powering up to 8%, 10%.
Oh, okay. That's a mouthful, and we're learning a lot from these, because you know, a lot of us were born here, grew up here, have never been out of this country, and we don't know what is going on in the African continent, which is something that we need to deal with, to understand and know other African countries before we even know anything beyond the continent itself. And that is a very good lesson, because it shifts the way you think and the way you view things when you start realizing that, you know, there are other economies that, you know, we can learn from, like IT in Kenya. We can learn from that and bring that here so that we can be able to be in almost the same level as them. And there's a lot that we can learn from each other.
Just on that, it's very interesting, actually, as you mentioned that I was invited, I think 2 or so years ago. I was giving a keynote speech in a platform where one of the mining companies had brought together CEOs of small businesses.
Yes.
And I was talking to them about opportunities in the continent. And I came across one young entrepreneur who he struck me as very self-driven, motivated. And he was producing a bathing soap, but
Yes.
the liquid version.
Yes, the
of
liquid
it.
version, yes.
And I remember cheering him up and telling him up that this is a tremendous opportunity. And he turned to me and he said, the only challenge is that government is not buying my soap.
Yes.
So I took him aside and I said to him, you must never, ever, ever repeat that statement
Yes.
again. Because one, the opportunity that you've had to produce, if you knew how much the African market would be waiting for your product,
Yes.
you will start crossing borders. Lesotho to Botswana, and these countries are just nearby,
Yes.
Swaziland, and expand. Because just the ability to produce that bathing soap, the liquid version, not the South Africa has the technological capability to give you that opportunity.
Yes.
Just very quickly, in Lesotho, for example, Lesotho was, again, being interviewed about the economy the other day. Lesotho has, they export water. They are the ones who supply Johannesburg
Supply water, yes,
with
to
water.
us, yes.
And then they import bottled water from South Africa.
From South Africa back to Lesotho.
Yes, because they don't, at least not on large scale, Lesotho doesn't have the technological capability to even do those bottling plants. The point is that if you are in South Africa, you have access to those technologies.
Yes, you have.
That you can actually export water to Lesotho, which sends you water and feeds Johannesburg. The same story with this young man. And I say to him, open your eyes to the market. Go out there, be an entrepreneur. The market is massive around the continent. And I think the one thing I like to challenge the entrepreneurs in South Africa is really that the continent is not an enemy, it's a market.
Yes.
And if I say that, one of the interesting trends I've found is you'll find Germans in South Africa, you'll find the Europeans, by and large, the British, Americans, coming for opportunities in the continent.
Yes.
When South Africans can easily practically just cross the borders. So these entrepreneurs are coming in for the African market because we as Africans are not really taking up the opportunities. And I wish, my advice is, I wish that entrepreneurs around the continent would see the opportunities that are there and cross the borders. Go, there's a ready market. Because that, when I talked about Africa rising, there's a massive emerging middle class around the continent with the buying power and consumption power. And China is taking over that.
Yes.
Europe is taking over that. Why can't we as Africans produce to take that opportunity?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that is one thing that as South Africans, as Africans, we don't see those opportunities. Because a lot of companies are having their offices here in the country, and they are targeting the whole of Africa. While we are here, but we are not targeting these opportunities out in the continent. And we speak a lot to small business owners, and some of them will be saying, we don't even have clients. But how aren't you having clients when you have not even, if a product is not selling that much here, who knows, maybe Botswana needs it. We're talking about bottled water.
Yeah.
When we're talking about bottled water, in South Africa, if I go to Venda, where I come from, which is part of Limpopo,
Yeah.
there are companies doing bottled water in villages.
Right.
So which means then the competition for bottled water is very high. But if a company that is doing bottled water there is competing for that small portion of clients,
Right.
it means you won't sell that much. But if this same company can say, let me target Lesotho, let me target Botswana, let me target Zimbabwe because we're just at the border, we can be able to sell to these countries.
I listened to the deputy president the other day during the G20 ministerial meeting.
Yes.
And he was giving a speech about access to capital and all of that, his closing speech.
Yes.
And one of the arguments he put forward was that as Africa, as SMMEs, small enterprises, they really just lack the capital for them to be able to take off. And I have a fundamental disagreement with that perspective, because in terms of access, and that's what we are talking about.
Yes.
Access to capital. And South Africa is one of the economies that has made access to capital reasonably easy for small businesses.
Yes.
You can go and access, whether if you want to be in the agricultural sector, you can access money from Land Bank, you can go to DBS, Development Bank, Southern Africa, you can even go in KwaZulu-Natal to Itala Bank. All of these, and businesses, commercial businesses, they have those channels of access to funding that are much more easy. And you know that because when you go to most other economies in the continent, access to finance, you're really on your own as an entrepreneur, as a venture capitalist. So access to capital is not really the problem. But when it comes to the skill to manage that capital so that it's able to give you returns, that is one of, for me, the major gaps.
Yes.
And the second one is the drive to explore the markets that are already there. We've spoken about Lesotho.
Yes.
And I don't believe that one large company, for example, is able to supply the whole of Lesotho.
No.
We should be able to find how we can insert ourselves into that value chain, because the technologies are there and the access to capital is there.
Yes.
So access to capital for me is not really the problem. I think it's a misdiagnosis. And if you go back, there's interesting work that has been done in academia around the supply of, if you take it to the macro level. So Africa has received a lot of aid and finance from the West, going all the way back to from the 1960s onwards.
Yes.
But when you look at how and the extent to which that aid capital, which sometimes it's just attached to good governance, and we argue against the conditionalities, and we ask governments not to tie us to conditions and all of, but the reality is that it's free money.
Yes.
So if it's free money, surely any capitalist, any entrepreneur should be able to translate that to give you returns.
Returns.
We haven't done that.
We have not.
For all of those decades, we are still talking of high levels of poverty and inequality. We are pushing the global franchise. I know that, including President Ramaphosa is at the moment in the US, and the rhetoric is still that exhausted argument that we want equality on the global platform. But we have our resources.
We have our
what
resources.
are we doing with the resources that we have? We are still pushing for access to more money, yet the money that we have, or the capital that we have, we are not really translating that. So that point, I was really laboring the fact that the market is there and it is massive. And by the way, the AFCFTA is currently, it has the largest free trade market or population that in the world. Nobody else has such a big scope of a market to market your products to.
Yes.
And we are here. And the second point quickly to make, Chilis, is that currently now, in terms of labor force, if you look at the demographics around the world, for the first time, I think it was last year, if I'm not mistaken, China's population dipped.
Yes.
So it's no longer growing where it was, and it's been growing from the 1940s onwards. If you look at countries like the European countries, whether it's France or the rest of the Nordic countries, including Germany and others, their population, they are suffering from serious population decline.
Yes.
Most of their populations are now aging, and because of that, they become more dependent on the economy.
Yes.
Because that means that you have to pay more retirement
Yes, because
pensions and
people are
all of
getting
that.
older.
And the state needs to be able to provide, because they are no longer active in the
Yes.
active labor market. They need to be taken care of.
Yes.
They are not contributing actively to the
Yes.
economy. Those economies are experiencing that kind of demographic decline. Russia is one of the economies. And those countries are at the moment trying to import workers. And guess where they're importing them from? From Africa.
Yes.
Because we have the youngest labor force in the world. And the projections are that by 2050, the world will be scrambling for Africa.
Yes.
Because that's where you have South Africa, most of the population is under 40 at the moment. And so is the rest of the continent. If you look at those factors, the future of the continent is very bright.
Very bright, yes.
Are we harnessing that? Why is Russia looking to import labor force from our own countries? What are our countries doing?
Yes.
What are
With
our
that
leaders
labor
doing with the labor force that we
Yes,
have?
that we have.
Younger labor force, educated, skilled, and yet we are not providing opportunities. No wonder we have a lot of brain drain going on with a lot of Africans who get opportunities or scholarships in Europe, in the US, and they go. And when they go, they sit there, they work there. I consider myself as very blessed to have had the opportunity to come and study in South Africa.
Yes.
And unfortunately, no matter what my own country says in Kenya, the reality is that because South Africa offered me the opportunity,
Yes.
I stayed.
You stayed in South Africa.
And I continue supplying to the South African economy.
Yes.
That's what happens when you have young people that get these scholarships in all of these countries, Australia. They leave, and when they go there, they get absorbed in those economies.
Yes.
Naturally, that's human behavior. And guess who loses?
We lose.
It's us as Africans. We lose. So I think the challenge is there on our leaders, but also both corporate and political leaders to look at how can we harness the opportunities we have in the continent.
There's a person sitting down now listening to us. They can hear we're talking in the global space, the way things are happening. And they feel that they don't have control over these big economic situations that are happening in the continent and in the world as it is. The brain drain and all these things that we're talking about. Can you please talk to a young man who has graduated, is sitting at home now, saying that I'm looking for a job and I can't find employment? What is it that, when you're looking at the economy, they can do to be able to put bread on the table and be able to take care of their family?
Right. So that's a very interesting point you make. I think one of for the young men and entrepreneurs who are sitting at home, graduates, I'm based at the university, so I know that, at least part of my life, I know that when you train these young people through universities or colleges, TVETs, the expectation everybody, for the most part, is I need to get a job. That's very troubling, and I'll tell you why.
Yes.
If you look at just general statistics, and it's not just us in the continent, it's also everywhere. Economies like the US and Germany and others, they are driven by innovation and entrepreneurship. And South Africa, unfortunately, has one of the least entrepreneurial activities in the world.
Wow.
If you look at the Global Entrepreneurial Monitor report, over time, and South Africa is always on the bottom of the countries that are sampled. Part of the issue is the culture that we have of employment. And unfortunately, that culture is tethered on even the way we communicate. It's not a South African issue, by the way. It's an African problem.
Okay, yes.
Where when we talk about work, the notions that are embedded on that word work is not entrepreneurship. To this day, I struggle a lot to explain to my dad that I earn a living.
Yes.
Because for him, I have to be employed.
You have to be employed somewhere.
Right,
so
by
that
somebody.
You can say, I'm in
get a salary.
Not start something of your own or a business.
Right.
Then that is not considered.
That's not work for him.
Employment, yes.
And it's
work, sorry.
It's a cultural issue that is embedded in our languages and our culture, largely as Africans. And I think because of that, we are therefore not able to innovate.
Yes.
And then other countries around the world, they power ahead of us because we are not. But coming back to the micro issue that you're talking about, on how do you get a young person to, and I know some of them are I was there. There was a time I spent an entire year,
Yes.
2008, immediately after my master's. I spent the whole year, we call it in Kenya, tamaking. Tamaking means you are literally walking on the tarmac
Yes.
with your leather shoes
Yes.
until they get worn off, looking for a job. Not looking for entrepreneurial work, but looking for a job. And I tarmacked.
Yes.
I tarmacked for a whole year.
Yes.
Until I came to realize this is not going to work, because that's one whole year lost. So my encouragement is, and this is also, by the way, theological principle.
Yes.
There's so much talent in South Africa
Yes.
and in our continent. And you see that everywhere you go, whether it's just people singing, whether you see these young boys on the roads when they do these performances on traffic stops and hoping that they can get some handout. Those are talents that can be converted into economic value.
Yes.
The interesting thing, and I will diverge a little bit into theology here, it's that God-given talent, the amazing thing is that the talents that you have
Yes.
are the same that God has designed for you to benefit economically from them. Everybody, whether you are an athlete, for example,
Yes.
if it's a talent, you earn money from that. If you are a musician, you earn
Yes.
money from the talent.
Yes.
You do it for God, for the kingdom, for the things of the matters
Yes.
that are bigger than you.
Yes.
But at the same time, in God's design, it's still your source of livelihood.
Exactly.
So if you're sitting at home and you have a talent, then something is wrong. That also means that you have a talent that you are sitting on, and we need to differentiate between the talent that you have and the education that you have. Those are two. Education really just sharpens your talent.
Yes.
I don't think that, and you have examples of a lot of people who are not necessarily highly educated, but they have pursued their talent.
Yes. And they made it through
They've
that.
made it in life. As a matter of fact, some of the greatest billionaires, the world's billionaires today, most of them are school dropouts.
Yes.
I do not advocate for school
Yes.
dropping out by any means. I think
Yes.
that it's very important
Yeah, to
to
have
sharpen
that,
your
yes.
skills, because what education does, it teaches you how to navigate the world in a much more organized way.
Yes.
And I think that is very, very critical. But if you have a talent, whatever it is, you start from there. And you'll be surprised that with those talents, people go out and they pitch their talents. They say to people, this is what I have. Can I get help? And yes, it's the same thing that we do with proposals of spouses, where she says no, or he says no in the beginning, but persist. You keep going until
Yes.
there is a yes that
Yes,
comes
of
out
course.
of the persistence.
If you did not persist,
Pursue, right.
you wouldn't have had that marriage.
No.
Because you had to work for it.
And that's where something big and beautiful comes
Yes.
from persistence.
Yes.
Where if you give up because there is a no, the possibility that that particular family will never happen, that particular spouse or companion will never be your
Yes.
companion. So you can see how basic principles in life, they push you towards that. And I think then for young people at home, the idea is your talent, whatever you have, you can start from there.
Yes.
And there is nothing that is too small to start.
Yes.
You start from there and you build on your talent, then sharpen it,
Yes.
find networks, access market, reach out to people. So
Yes.
all of that, be active player or
Yes.
active actor in your life. You can be a passenger in your life.
Of course you can.
And that's the tragedy of so many people.
Very true.
If you are an active actor, you go out, go to concerts, go to universities, knock there, find out if you can be accepted in some of these, and
Yes.
you'll be rejected, but keep persisting, push, but get your talent to work.
Yes, and that is one thing that we are all born with.
Yeah.
You know, young people, when they come to me and talk about, the fact that, I'm unemployed, I don't have work, I first ask, what is it that you're passionate about?
Right.
What is your passion? They may talk about music, they may talk about cooking, they may talk about different things.
Right.
And this is exactly where you can start. Because the minute you're doing what you love,
Yeah.
You don't even feel that you're working.
No.
You feel like you're doing something that you're passionate about.
Right.
You can do it even till midnight.
Right.
You don't even get tired doing it because you enjoy it.
If we locate that in the broader economic principle, there's a principle called flexible specialization. Let me explain what that is. If you look at Ford, and that's where the term comes from. Ford, when it started off, the idea was you have a factory where you do everything, the steering wheel, the tires, and all of that. Along the way, the Ford plus his executives, they figured out that, hang on, you can actually be more efficient if you outsource these activities.
Yes.
So give somebody the steering wheel to work on, and then somebody else can work on carburetor, and somebody else on the tires, somebody else on the air conditioner, and all of that. And then pay them for that. It's up to them. And then they can do thousands of steering wheels. So instead of you working on 5 cars every 6 months, get 20 people to work on steering wheels, or 1 person to work on 1,000 steering wheels, 20 people to work on air cons. Ultimately, in a day or within 6 months, you can produce about 200 cars.
Yes.
Because every talent is being used. And not everybody is talented to make tires.
Exactly.
But in business leadership, it's this whole concept of systems thinking.
Yes.
Which looks at how your role completes the whole.
Yes.
So when you are on your own, you can make steering wheels, but they are going nowhere.
Yes.
You need the person making the tires, but you sharpen your skills on just the steering.
On steering wheels.
Yes. Do it well.
Yes.
Perfect that. Then go into the market as the best steering wheel seller. Once you have that, you will find somebody who is the best tire seller and the other, the bumper maker and all of that. That's how you start penetrating and accessing that market.
Yes.
Before you realize you're playing big in that market. So I think that you see it also in the soccer game. It's the same principle. If you have soccer players who everybody wants to score, you will not score. But you play your part well. If you're number 7 or you're fullback, you play your role perfectly.
Play your role perfectly.
The team wins.
The team wins.
That's how economy operates.
Teamwork.
It's a teamwork.
That's the economy.
Yeah.
And it comes back to that and that is where I have a problem when we see the economy as the government.
Right.
Because that is just one component.
Right.
And there are different components. And I want you to take us through those components of the economy. What forms an economy? Because then people will start realizing that they have a responsibility in the economy, because an economy that is only government is not a fully fledged economy.
So at the very basic level, economy is really supply and demand.
Yes.
Somebody needs food, somebody is producing food.
Yes.
Somebody needs a car, somebody is producing a car. And that's on a very basic level before governments and everybody else is involved. So the question that every individual, every entrepreneur needs to ask themselves is, where is the need? Is there a need around me? You mentioned, for example, in Venda, you can ask in the village, and that's, you ask yourself, what is the need here? What is the demand?
Yes.
And it could be that people are looking for, let's say, bottled water, for argument's sake.
Yes.
Reason, because it's a dry area and nobody seems to be producing that bottled water. Therefore, you ask yourself, okay, can I supply? And how can I supply at the cheapest cost possible, but with a profit margin? So at the very basic level, you have to look around and ask yourself, where is the need? And how can I supply that need?
Yes.
On a basic level. Let me come to that question that you raised. Very fundamental, and I hope we can have a much longer time to talk about this. One of the greatest challenges in South Africa economically, it's that point that you've mentioned.
Yes.
Where the expectation is that the government is the economy.
Yes.
I would project that to suggest that I've seen that challenge also in Kenya, where the idea of if you are in government, you are the economy.
Yes.
It's a very misleading concept. because government by design is intended at facilitating opportunities, facilitating conditions for the economy, for the entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Now, we talked about supplying water or cars and all of that. The government is not supposed to produce that. The government is supposed to ensure there are regulations that make you, for example, as a South African, that when you have some entrepreneur from Germany, that you have a preferred advantage.
Yes.
Than that, because the same thing happens in Germany, and or localization, we call it. So you have those opportunities, and government facilitates that.
Yes.
And other issues that are very critical for government to play are, of course, basic services. Because if you're running a factory that there is no water or there is no electricity, you're going to lose a lot of money. Those are facilitative roles by design. By the way, I've interacted a lot with local government in South Africa. I've done a lot of work for local government. And one of the cringeworthy statements that you hear local government officials saying is, we got to create jobs.
Yes.
And the white paper of on local government, local government white paper, 2001, it's very clear, explicit even, that the role of government is not to create jobs. It's very clear as that.
I'm glad you said that.
It's as clear, it's in broad print. If you read that, you understand that the intention of local government that needs to focus on delivery of services. I have a problem with the idea of basic services delivery, and I think that is something that we can have a discussion about. I think we need to take away the whole notion of basic. It shouldn't be basic service delivery. Delivery of services should not be just basic, because basic, it means that I give you just enough water for you to drink, but not enough water for you to water your garden, which you might water, means you produce flowers, which you can export. So I think we can get into that discussion on delivery of services. But the idea of government is very misleading. But maybe a quick second point to make on that. I did my PhD thesis on transmission of wealth from one generation to another. One of the challenges I found, and this is a structural problem of South Africa's economy, it's the fact that if you finish university, you're done with your degree, either TVET or university, you end up in government, your wages are much higher than if you will end up in a private sector. That's a huge anomaly. There are not many economies that operate like that in the world. The last time I checked, I don't know if that has changed, but only South Africa and Egypt, at least in the continent, are in that league. Ideally, you should make more money in the private sector. What that does is the current setting, the current structural problem we have in South Africa, is that it makes your it disincentivizes, it takes away any incentive for anybody to go to the private sector. Because it means if I go to the private sector, I hustle longer, more, and I earn less money. If you find government opportunities, you earn better wages. And of course, you have a better car, a better house, and everybody wants those things for their families. That's a big anomaly, which I hope that there could be serious engagement on this issue and how that can change so that there's more incentive. That explains why we have low levels of entrepreneurship. Because by design, again, government doesn't innovate. If you go to government, you're not an innovator. You are there to simply help manage the process of delivery of services and all of that. So that disincentive is a major anomaly in South Africa. If we have better wages in the private sector, perhaps you could start seeing more innovation.
And the flow of human capital.
From and the labor force.
If people who were in government may want to move to the private sector, because now private sector is a better opportunity for them. But when a person enters the government sector, they prefer to stay there because of the more benefits that they get in there, that they cannot even get in the private sector space.
Consider this. If you, by the time you are done with your matric, you're most likely 17 or 18 years. If you are done with your first degree, you're around 22, 23 years. If you get a job with government at 23 years, a permanent job, your pension is guaranteed.
Yes.
And guess when you need to get your pension? At the age of 60. So there is very little incentive for you to leave that security. Security is there when you are 23 years old. For the rest of your life, you can work for government, and unless there is something seriously drastic, you're not going to lose your job in government.
Yes.
Because also the requirements and the pressure on government is very limited. So I think that we've made a major mistake by enabling this notion of job creation in government. Because in so doing, you have a ballooning state that is not producing, because the state is not a producer.
Yes.
And that is not innovating. And yet the labor force is ending up there.
Yes.
You are wasting so much talent that could be innovating, creating wealth in the private sector.
In the private sector.
And that's gone on for a long time. I think we need to start pushing for ways in which that structural anomaly may actually change.
Because the private sector, and for us who did business, economics and accounting, we know that the private sector is the sector where profit is the main, the bottom line. They look at whether they're making a profit or not, and that is what drives these businesses.
Right.
Because the shareholders expect a return on investment.
Right.
But that's not what government needs.
No.
Government is not meant for profit. It's a government, so they are supposed to do exactly what you were saying.
Right.
And if we take all talent and put it in there, then we are doing a disservice to ourselves.
Yes.
Because the people who are supposed to be producing products that are being sold to other countries and within the continent are now sitting in government.
Right.
And they are not producing what they were supposed to be producing.
Correct.
All the talent, all the accountants are in there, all these people are in there. But these are the same people that even if they went into government, we should be able to afford to take them out of there and bring them into the economy, because they understand the government. They're now going to be understanding the private sector.
Right.
And with that alone, we can be able to start producing an economy that is going to be able to absorb the unemployed in the continent.
If you take a good example of, I was following up the US process, and you had Elon Musk, who is, of course, very successful, the most successful entrepreneur there is in our time, and he got into government.
Yes.
And he found just how difficult it is to do anything in government.
Yes.
That's not to say nobody should be in government.
Yes.
But it tells you that the environment in government is not really for entrepreneurs.
Yes.
And there's a lot of mismatch, career mismatch, by the way, where you have innovators, IT, and all of that, who are busy servicing government systems, which is great, but they could do with their talent much more if they were out in the private sector. So you have those kind of mismatch, or you have a business expert who is busy in IT, for example, because ultimately you are simply just looking for a job, not pursuing your career or your talent.
Yes.
And I think that is one of the anomalies which I hope that we can engage to get people who, I get a lot of requests from government, retiring government officials who are approaching their 60s. And they tell me, can you please help me put up a business plan for business?
Yes.
And I discourage them. Reason, because at that time, you can't work for government for 40 years.
Yes.
And when you are retiring, your pension money, you want to use that as seed capital.
As seed capital for the
So I say
business.
to them, I'd rather that you use that money for your sunset years, and not because entrepreneurship by design is a high-risk environment.
It's a high-risk environment.
You can lose that money.
And you are from this place where there's no much risk that is taken.
No, there isn't. There isn't. Now the only money that you have, which you could use, you want to risk that because you can lose it.
You can lose it.
And if you lose it, you know, as a theologian, as a Christian, I don't want to be party to you know, 60-year-olds who are going to their sunset cursing my name because I sent them into losing money and all of that. But the point I'm making, I think, is that those anomalies, those discussions around how we restructure ourselves, it does start from an individual level where you see yourself as an entrepreneur and realize that you can, there are very few companies in South Africa and elsewhere that can give you double salary by end of the year.
Yes.
But when you're an entrepreneur, you can double your capital and your profits in a year.
Yes.
That's the benefit of
Yes.
all of that,
Exactly.
of being an entrepreneur.
Because your growth is not determined by the income you earn. You are able to go beyond
Right.
the normal income that an employee earns.
Right.
And that is where innovation comes in. Because the minute you are in the entrepreneur space, that's where you can be innovative, you can be diversify your portfolios and all these kind of things. The assets that you buy into the business and the knowledge that you benefit when you're doing that. And that is where, if we want to be able to start creating employment, if you own a business, you won't work in that business alone for a long time.
Yeah.
You can work in the first few years, but as time goes, the work will be a lot in such a way that you will need more people to come in. And we need to be in an environment where the government and the private sector can be able to work together to be able to uplift, to grow the economy.
Right. Right. Very good point you are making. When you're running a business, when you start off, at some point you reach a ceiling in terms of
Yes.
how much you can do. And we come back to that concept of flexible specialization.
Yes.
You can't be a very effective secretary if you are an entrepreneur.
Yes, you can't.
Because
You can't.
As a secretary who does a fantastic
Yes.
work there to welcome people, give them some water, you can't do that.
Yes.
Similarly, you can't be sitting to work on reports, for example,
Yes.
when you're supposed to be out there looking for business.
Yes.
Ultimately, you've got to ask yourself, if I'm not going to be sitting doing the secretarial job, then what do I do with that very important component of my business? Then you get a secretary. Then you need reports done. Then you need IT.
Yes.
Then you need, and it is still that concept of flexible specialization, where you focus on your specialization. When you start up a business, of course, you become a jack of all trades.
Yes.
You do everything in the
Because
beginning.
it's
It's a beginning. It's a venture capital. But along the way, you begin to specialize, and you get people who are specialists in those specific areas
Yes.
that can then enable growth and also give you a competitive edge that you are able to compete against other businesses.
Because that is very important. And when looking at the economy as a whole, looking at the government and its role, and this government that needs to manage the private sector that is consisting of labor, entrepreneurs, and the need for capital, talking about the assets that you need in the business and all that. So talking about all these things, these are the things that we need to be able to uplift our economies.
Right.
And the challenge that, as you're saying, we focus on one thing and look at government and say, our government will do everything for us, what we can do. And then that is exactly the same situation when you're a son and you have a dad who's working.
Right.
You may relax because obviously my dad has money. But the minute you get out and you have your own space, you start realizing that, I need to buy tissue. I need to buy food. I need to make sure that I have a detergent to clean my house. And all these things, when you're a child, you don't see them because somebody else is doing them for you.
It's interesting, it's interesting you raised that. Maybe a very quick personal story of mine. That year that I went to Nairobi after my master's and I couldn't find a job, my dad offered to stay with me, and he had a nice apartment.
Yes.
You know, there was a bed, a stove, and everything. And so I stayed with him for some time, maybe a month or two. And then I decided, how long does this go on?
Yes. How long?
Because this is somebody else. He's my father, yes. But he's living his life. This is somebody else's sweat.
Yes.
And I remember sitting down with him and I said, Dad, I am so grateful for every opportunity you've given me, but I've got to carve my own path. And I will never forget, I went, booked myself, I scrambled to find some money to find an apartment. And when I did, I remember the joy of being free to pursue things on my own.
Yes.
But then what I did, I didn't have money to get a bed. So I slept on the floor for a number of weeks. But I couldn't compare that feeling of, this is me hustling, because no matter how big or how comfortable my dad's place is, that's not my place.
It's not your place.
That's his. And there's something unique that comes with self-actualization.
Yes.
Where, and after that, by the way, I lived in a slum for quite some time myself.
Yes, in a slum.
In a slum. And
I want you to go back to that. Yes.
It's a discussion I want to delve much deeper when we have time.
Yes.
The idea was to find my own personal agency.
Yes.
To start up your own life alone. And no matter how low you start, but it's your life.
Yes.
You are an individual. You have agency and you have talent. The talents you have are not the same talents that your father has. He's using his talent for his livelihood or your parents. What about you? What have you got? Go and start from sub-zero if possible.
Yes.
And from there, you push and you start to build. And that's how you build your sense of agency. So if you project that to the macroeconomic issues around government, I think that the idea of government as Big Daddy is somehow in South Africa we need to get out of that mentality and ask ourselves, the government is producing and giving all these opportunities. How can I use those opportunities to create wealth?
Yes.
And you do that knowing that you can create more wealth out there than how much government is likely to give. And now everybody, if you have everybody scrambling for government, you have a very crowded government.
Yes, it becomes crowded.
It becomes very crowded. But if you find your niche and your talent,
yes,
that's never crowded. One of my philosophies in business has been, no matter how many people might have the same talent I have, the one thing, and you and I have worked on that, you know, the principle of efficiency.
Yes.
I figured out that from a consulting point of view, there are very few consultants who are efficient.
Yes.
They will promise you heaven and deliver. They will promise you an aeroplane and they deliver a bicycle.
Yes. Yes.
And then they will not deliver it on time even. But take one thing and decide, I'm going to be the most efficient consultant. If I promise my client that I will deliver tomorrow, I will deliver tomorrow.
Yes. Yes.
For the most part, when you are that reliable, when you stand out, people look out for you and they're like, I want the guy who can deliver on time.
Yes.
Period. And sometimes you can be even very good at your job, but you are not efficient.
Yes.
Then they would be like, no, but this one I need it delivered. So it is that uniqueness that we find in our process of self-actualization, in our process of finding our own agency. And when you get to the point of finding your uniqueness and pursue that, you will realize how much talent there is in South Africa. We are producing how many graduates every year in this country?
Year.
Right.
But look at the size of universities that we have. The number of students you see there every day.
Right.
And these students are going to be graduates that and you look at the graduations that we see on social media and all these channels.
Where are they going?
Where are they going after that?
Right. So most of them now, unfortunately, we are producing graduates who are going to government, not innovating. And then you have to ask yourself, who pays their salary? It's the few who are going out to the private sector.
Yes.
Because government is not a producer, it collects taxes.
Yes.
So somebody is paying salaries.
Somebody's paying
for that
those
big
government
engine.
salaries.
Right. And that needs to be this.
And the now looking at the number of jobs we just lost this current year.
Yeah.
The bracket, the amount that the government has been receiving is being, reduced by the number of jobs that we're losing because all those employees were paying tax.
Yeah.
And before we know it, the budget that the government is supposed to use to pay employees and still deliver services, they may end up paying their employees and failing to deliver services because there's not enough money to do that. And besides that, the minute the private sector is growing, it absorbs even those graduates who are sitting at home who are not working, who are now dependent on these pensioners who are getting grants from government.
Right.
Those graduates who are having children who are supposed to get child grant.
Right.
And these people, when they are absorbed by the system, the private sector,
Yeah.
instead of being people who are benefiting from tax, they start paying this tax.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we're supposed to be doing.
I think that in South Africa, again, because we're talking about South Africa, the challenge, and this is a problem that you can project to other countries, but I know in South Africa, the challenge that you've just mentioned now, we've been growing at roughly sub 1% for the last decade.
Yes.
So I wrote a paper a couple of, an op-ed a couple of months ago, I think it was, on South Africa's second lost decade. Maybe we can talk about that.
Yes.
But my argument is that if you have the economy that has been growing in less than this year now, the projection, according to Stats SA, year on year, we are looking at 0.8%.
Yes.
And last year it was 0.6%. So we are still at the sub 1%.
Yes.
If we have been growing at that rate for the last decade, then we need to change things somehow.
Of course, something
We
must
can't
change.
keep doing the
We
same
can't
things.
do the same things.
If you look at Becky's economy in the early 2000s,
Yes.
it was booming at 5%, going up to 6%.
Yes, yes.
The best years in South Africa's democracy in terms of economic growth. You can almost correlate with the growth of the private sector. There was, because of President Becky's African ideology, Pan-Africanist ideology of African Renaissance, what happened around the time, there were massive corporates, South African corporates that ballooned, and they both grew in the country, and they also went out.
Yes.
There's a place in Lusaka, I've been there, where if you walk in there, you will think you are somewhere in Brooklyn, in Pretoria, because there's Pep, there's Woolworths, there's Nando's. It's practically just South Africa.
And a lot of people are not aware that you can find your South African grocery stores in Nigeria.
Yeah. I mean, this MTN is one of, it's I think the largest, which is a South African company. And in Kenya, Spar, this the whatever it's in Kenya. Nando's, the same story. So if you look at Mbeki, you can correlate the growth of the private sector. We really have to, no matter what we say, we have to ask ourselves, what conditions are there for the private sector now? And I've pointed to negative conditions, which include, for example, the disincentives, whether it's wage issues, and also the fact that we've stayed without electricity in South Africa for a long time now, which and now even when it's available, it's very expensive.
Yes.
So companies are really struggling. Companies are closing down, scaling down. That is one. Those are challenges that we have to ask ourselves. And then one other important factor to consider is it's more perhaps ideological.
Yes.
Where the private sector in South Africa has been viewed as this diabolic, demonic force of sorts. And that's an ideology that I think also needs to change, because in the final analysis, this private sector is the producer. Every single economy in the world that has powered ahead, produced and created jobs, it is really largely powered by the private sector.
Yes.
If the private sector is not given that opportunity, the economies are not going. And that is the case for the rest of the continent, Pan-African growth now. If we are talking about the growth, you can still see a correlation between the growth of the private sector in the countries that are doing very well, whether Ethiopia or Kenya now, in terms of the growth, the GDP growth. You can see how that is produced by the private sector. But if we are crowded in government, like we are in South Africa, there's not much growth that is going to come from government.
It won't.
Yeah.
It won't. And look, talking about that, I think one other thing that we should talk about is the small business space, where you need to look at the fact that we don't really, I don't know whether we don't believe in growing new businesses, or we are not interested in growing new businesses, because starting new businesses and growing them and encouraging our children, because even people who are, when as a parent, when a child says that I'm going to study, then I'm going to start a business, they don't really encourage you to do that. They want you to find a job in an established corporate, which is a challenge because you are a farmer.
Yeah.
And if you have crop, like say you have maybe a maize meal, you're a crop farmer.
Yeah.
You will plow and you will harvest.
Right.
And if you plow and harvest, you need to plow again.
Right.
Same thing applies with business. There are times where a big corporate will survive for a number of years, maybe 100 years, almost maybe 150 years. But there's an upswing and there will be a decline of that corporate.
Right. Right.
It will one day have to die
Yeah.
or amalgamate with others and
Yeah.
reduce employment.
Yeah.
And that is happening. And we see that the 100-year-olds, the 150-year-old businesses
Yeah.
are shrinking. Some are amalgamating with others or are being bought and being reduced to a smaller organization
Right.
than they were before. But when that is happening,
Yeah.
we were supposed to be plowing and producing new businesses that are going to be taking over
Right.
that loss that we're experiencing because of the bigger organization that is, going down now.
And that's where the innovation, very good point you're raising, that's where innovations come in. And there's a major shift of sectoral dependence. So previously we would still very much rely on organic agriculture and all of that.
Yes.
And because of that, business or enterprise was very particular. If you wanted to grow, you had to locate yourself in that sector.
Yes.
Now we have a lot of new sectors that are coming in. BPO is one of it, business process outsourcing.
Yes.
Those were not business opportunities that were here about 100 years ago, and several others, IT systems, the Internet of Things, and all of that, AI.
Yes.
So these are new spaces in the
Yes.
economy that need to be harnessed by new entrepreneurs. And there are two levels of entrepreneurship. There are the Elon Musks and the Mark Zuckerbergs of the world, who are the big innovators of groundbreakers.
Yes.
And then you have incremental innovators. So when, for example, Bill Gates and his team started making computers,
Yes.
they were those massive boxes. I taught myself how to type with a massive box of computer, which was very ugly and at the same time very tedious to work on.
Yes.
But incremental innovation is where progressively you make more sleeker computers, desktops. And then we had flat screens. And then emerging from that, we had laptops. And then tablets. And then phones translating to computers. So those are incremental innovations. And the reason I was raising that point is you don't have to wait to become an Elon Musk.
No.
You can do your innovation as an incremental innovator to look at how can I make something more efficient. Somebody else made it reasonably efficient, but how can I make it more efficient along the way? The person who was innovating tires, I don't think they ever dreamt that tires could be used for aircrafts. Their idea was to simply simplify transportation on the ground, not aircrafts in the skies. But with all of that, or turnstiles, so all of these other equipments that make use of tires and all of those kind of motions. So incremental innovation means that you look at what has been done, and we come back to the basic question of economics, which is supply and demand. What is being required, and how can I innovate something that very few people are doing or nobody else is doing? And it doesn't need to be that groundbreaking innovation. It can be this incremental. So that is really the space that I see for small enterprises coming to play. And then I want to link that with the point I mentioned about flexible specialization, where it was very interesting, this whole debate going on between Trump and China. Because he said that he was going to put up tariffs and the tariff war. And what I think that his team perhaps did not successfully advise him was that the more he put tariffs on imports from China, the more he was hurting American companies that are located in China.
Yes.
Because what American companies did,
Yes.
they go to the countries that have low
Oh,
wages,
yes, of course.
where they can maximize their profits. So
Yes.
Elon Musk have plants in, Tesla has plants
Yes.
everywhere.
Yes.
In India and as well as in China. Jeep, which is an American company, you will realize that most of the steering wheels are made in China. So you increase tariffs, you're actually hurting American companies.
Yes.
And I know that at some point, it was also Tesla, if I'm not mistaken. There are some American companies that when Trump wanted to put up tariffs for Mexico,
Yes.
they cried foul a lot. Because, and they're not crying foul because they love Mexicans. Far from
Yes.
that. It's because you're hurting their business.
Exactly.
They're in a world that is, and this is where small enterprises come into play.
Yes.
Because Elon Musk needs small businesses in
Yes.
China and in Mexico and everywhere. People like Mark Zuckerberg, he needs those Indian kids from university who sit and you see them operating using this, they're operating you've never met them, but somehow you pay them and they are working on your computer to fix your virus and
Yes.
whatever, all the way from
India.
India.
Yes.
And that's the space for small businesses now, the flexible specialization.
Yes.
Where you specialize on something and become really good in it for South Africa, for the African market, and for the world.
Yes.
And from there, you plug yourself into the value chain, the global supply chains. That's how small businesses in our time are going to grow.
Yes.
And we might come to a point where multinational corporations are no longer viable. Because, and COVID taught us that easily, that actually you don't need 50 employees in a place where you are paying rent and all those overheads. You can hire a graduate from India to do your IT, who you've never seen, but you sign a contract, and they help you work. You can hire a graduate from China who are sitting in China, another one from Kenya,
work from China,
and they work and they make you profit as a capitalist, as an entrepreneur. So those, I think, are spaces where small businesses can really plug into. So I don't for a moment buy the idea that there are no opportunities for small businesses.
No,
I think they are massive, they are great, and we should be capitalizing on those.
Yes.
Yeah.
And talking about, COVID.
Yeah.
Because during COVID, I think me and you did a lot of work during COVID.
Right.
But we didn't see Asha that much.
Right.
Most of the things were done online.
Yeah.
And the reason why online, obviously, we don't want to catch COVID.
Yeah.
But that on its own brought in something that is very important for us, to be able to work from wherever you are.
Yeah.
Which then open opportunities to say, the borders of the country do not stop me from making money anymore.
Right.
Because I don't have to be in Australia to service Australians.
Yeah.
I don't have to be in the UK to service people in the UK or America for that matter.
Right.
I don't have to be in Zimbabwe to be able to service people from Zimbabwe. If I'm providing a service, I can provide it from here.
Right.
And that is where a space where you don't sometimes even need an office.
Right.
To be able to work, you can work from home, but service all these people. There are teachers who are teaching kids in China, and they're sitting in South Africa.
Yeah.
So there's a lot that we still have to unpack, but because of time, we won't be able to unpack everything. I think we need to invite you again to come in, because the economy is big. Yeah, it's a massive thing that we cannot cover in one day.
The economy is like an aircraft. Yes. Too many moving parts that often you understand it only as a whole. Yes. But it's necessary sometimes to understand that a bolt if you've watched these air crash investigations, something very small can be the disaster for the aircraft. Yes. And it's those things that it's necessary for entrepreneurs, for citizens to understand that big picture of an aircraft. But at the same time, get to understand some of the bolts that could be detrimental to your livlivelihood as a citizen and as Homo economicus, which we call that the economic man. Because ultimately, everybody is an economist. Yes. It's just that some of us get more educated to function in a much bigger scale. Everybody is forced to make a financial decision.
Very true.
Very true. And that is very important to understand.
Dr. Jason Musyoka, thank you very much for being with us today and joining us on this wonderful and rich conversation that we had. And from the Financial Literacy Corner podcast, we really thank you for coming in and talk to us, and we will really invite you again to come and talk to us. And this is the type of financial literacy that we're looking for, to give perspective to these small business owners, individuals out there who do not really understand how the economy works. And you that just bring in and make it more practical for us in a way that a layman on the street can understand. And that's exactly what we need to understand and be able to go out there and start these small businesses, grow these small businesses, invest in innovation, and grow as a continent and as a global south also. That is where we can be able to grow, taking advantage of the BRICS and all these things that we have. So thank you very much, and we really appreciate. But before we go, as a researcher, and we have companies that need that, as you talked about business plans that you do for businesses, all this work that you do, you can maybe just take us through what services you provide,
Right.
and also tell us where we can be able to get a hold of you.
Thank you so much for that. So I run my own company, the Frontline Group, which is also a Pan-Africanist that does market research, social research. From a market research point of view, we are able to help clients look for their research solutions or customer preferences, product preferences, and all of that. So that's on the market research side. On the social research, we are very involved in research that looks at issues of governance, monitoring and evaluation of programs that are more humanitarian or development programs.
Yes.
And then we've also done a lot of research around migration, but importantly around policy. We do a lot of policy-related research.
Yes.
The third leg is for corporates, where we do strategic visioning for corporates, companies that want to plan their strategic
Yes.
planning. So we are able to assist with that and help them to develop their visions and the missions and so on.
Yes.
So that's what we essentially do. You'll find us at if you just Google the Frontline Group, you'll find us there. We are at www.thefrontlinegroup, thefrontline-group.com.
Yes.
You'll find us online on that. We are on LinkedIn and social media as well. But if you Google us, you'll find us there.
Yes.
So that's where you can reach us.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much for listening to us. If you are listening to us and you find this beneficial, please like and subscribe to the channel. Follow us so that you can be able to get more information, more knowledge like what you just received right now from Dr. Jason Musyoka. Thank you so much.